welcome to LifeWire's second event. Woo! We are so excited. We are happy to be here. The LifeWire team. Of course, you all know me, Charlize, the director of Self-Esteem. And we are so ready and we are happy to provide with you all this event. So what we're going to focus on today is, of course, you all know, those of us who have been tuning in and watching our LifeWire Lifelines weekly on Mondays, you all know that monthly we focus on a specific topic, such as depression, self-esteem. We touched on anxiety, right?
Yeah.
That one was really good.
That one was really good. Anxiety.
Yeah, that really helped a lot of people at our last
and it was
event.
necessary too.
It surely was. It surely was. And the reason why it was is because, with everything that's been going on with the pandemic, our anxiousness have kind of arisen. Our worriness have kind of arisen, right?
Yeah.
And so we've got a lot of feedback that people were sharing that, man, that was great. You all really helped us. But today we are so excited because we are focusing on acceptance and reflection. So I'm very, very happy about that. And we have, again, with us two special guests with us today. Both of these beloveds I have known for quite a while, and they are phenomenal. They are phenomenal individuals. And so I'm very happy that they can be with us today. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we do, I just want to give you all a little bit background. And so our focus with dealing with reflection and acceptance is a lot of people, including us, have sometimes questioned, how God made us, how he created us, our personality, how we are on the inside, how we are on the outside physically, us wishing we could look and be like someone else. And so sometimes we're not happy with our flawed areas because no one is perfect. And so there might have been a point of time in our life where we may find it difficult to look in the mirror and be happy with what we see. What would you say about that?
You know what? Looking in the mirror and being happy with what we see, it's like a process, right? Because, I know I have, and I'm sure a lot of people have had those moments where you just look in the mirror and you like, I don't even want to look at myself.
Yeah.
Or moments where you will pass by the mirror because you just don't want to look at yourself at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you come to realization, when you really start loving you for you, and get into that process of accepting every single thing that comes with you, then it becomes a little bit more easier. So I definitely agree with you. Like that acceptance of self is a process.
Yes.
But once you get through it, it's necessary. And guess what? It's a daily process. The older we get, the more and more we look at ourselves in the mirror and we find something that we just don't like.
Absolutely.
We always do. But there's always an escape route for that.
Yes.
Always.
Yes. And we're going to touch on that today. And we, the LifeWire team, myself, Micaiah, Candace, and Justine, we talked a lot about process.
Yeah.
We share that in almost all of our LifeWire meetings that we have weekly. Everything that we go through is for a reason, and it is a process. We always talk about be patient with yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't expect if something traumatic has occurred or happened, that you should just be okay with it in a month or 6 months or to a year, because everybody is different.
Yes.
Everybody's different and everybody processes it differently. And so today that is what we're going to talk about. Getting to that place of, yes, I might have experienced rejection because of how I am, whether it was from family, from friends, right? Our community.
Absolutely.
That's a heavy one. And another heavy one is our church.
Yes,
unfortunately.
Church. Yeah.
Our church family. experiencing that rejection.
Absolutely. Trying to mimic them and not necessarily looking like what they want us to look like. And that set up self-rejection. And then, of course, our peer rejection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Peer rejection as well. Social. Definitely, for sure. And so sometimes if we have encountered a rejection moment given by somebody else, we start to second guess with who we are, and then we start having trouble with accepting ourselves, thinking like, man, I wish I was more like her. Yeah. Man, wish I was more like him. Man, I wish I looked like her. Or man, I wish I looked like him. And so today we're going to provide solutions,
yes,
tips, a little bit of transparency on how we can process if you or your family member or somebody you know have experienced this. And so we're going to get right into our guests. I am so excited. I'm so excited. And I just want to check and make sure Candace and Justine. Hey, sisters. Are you guys doing all right?
Hi.
Hey.
Hello, hello.
You guys have anything you guys would like to add?
Just excited to see everyone, and you ladies look phenomenal.
I think I have nothing additional to add. You just hit it right on the nose, right? Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so first, our special guest today is Vernon Brooks, or Brother Vernon Brooks. I call him, he's like my little brother. I've known him, man, it's been over maybe 15 years. Maybe 15 years. But Vernon Brooks is a man
Thank y'all for having me. I am good. I feel blessed and I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely.
Yes. Hey y'all. Hey. How y'all doing?
Absolutely. We're so happy that you can make it here and be with us on today.
Yes.
It's such an honor and a blessing, really.
Thank y'all for calling me.
Thank you.
Little me.
Well, and that's what it is, right? It's like we've only lived for only a short period of time, but there is so much experience that we have gone through already.
Woo, so much experience.
So much. I'm sure you probably could write 5-6 books.
Already did. They just not published.
See, look. That means it's time for you to publish them, man of God.
Seriously.
Listen, come on.
It works, y'all. Yep. Thank you. Thank y'all for having me, though. Thank y'all.
Awesome. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get into our question segment. Please leave your comments in a comment box. We will check them periodically during our Q&A segment. Any questions that you may have for myself or for our special guest, Vernon, please do so. We will get to them. And of course, you can always feel free to donate to Refresh Global as well if you all feel the need to do so. And so we appreciate you and we hope you enjoyed this segment. And so, Vernon.
Let's do it.
Getting started.
Okay.
So, of course, you work with youth.
Yes.
And particularly you work with young men, young boys,
Mm-hmm.
and so in the underserved community. So I'm assuming in the Chicagoland area, in the city.
All over, yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so What has that experience been like for you?
Wow. So my job, my full-time job, is working with a nonprofit called Chicago Youth Programs Incorporated. I've been working with them for about 2.5 years now. The process is a lot of people underestimate the process of mentorship or counseling or just being a person that can almost be like a father figure. Because as you guys know, in the Black community, we suffer from lack of fatherhood. Yeah. And when you suffer from lack of fatherhood, you have a lot of boys who don't understand what it means to be a man or grow up with the mannerisms that a man should have at those early ages. So one of my biggest things that I've had to struggle with getting in is allowing them to trust me. How can you trust a person you don't even know?
Sure.
When your father or mother has abandoned you at a young age, and now your parent is your grandmother, or your parent is your foster mother, and that's what I deal with. So that has been a process, but I can say they love Mr. Vernon. They love Mr. Vernon. Ain't gonna play with you, but he also is gonna let you know that you are great in so many ways. And just because people have lack in your life here doesn't mean that this has to be the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And that is so good. That's so great. Yeah. And we need more people willing, to help the next generation. Where they do lack a father figure in a home or a mother, and they're with their grandparents or guardians or in their foster care, to really have that great support system. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for serving. Honestly, it is. Man, I know it's not always easy, but
woo! Y'all come with me to my next visit. You may get cussed out, you may get called a B, you may get called all types of stuff, and I think the what I've had to learn is that, especially you guys working in clinical, helping people. First of all, we talk about people that are grown.
Yeah.
I'm working with students who don't even understand what it even means to. They think they're grown already, right? They're 12 years old, having to cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for yourself. Go home, not knowing where your next meal comes from. Your dad is in and out of jail. Your mama struck out on drugs. Your grandma loves you, but she can't handle you because it's so toxic. So yeah, it's real. I'll say that it is. I don't want to make it seem like it's not a good thing though. Like I'm and you know me, I started a movement a long time ago.
Yes.
And God always put on my heart to work with youth. That's something I'm never get. I don't care if I'm 80 years old. Y'all better accept me in. I'm working with youth. So
that is your heart. That is your
heart.
passion.
That's my heart,
and that's so great.
Yeah.
And it's so great that you've discovered that
Yeah.
already at a young age. Do you mind sharing that process in discovering who God called you to be and then accepting that?
Man, y'all think it's sweet. A lot of y'all think I just woke up and the anointing just fell on me and then it just got real. No, and like Charlize knows me from way back, like she said, literally, that's probably correct, 15 years or plus. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all.
Right.
Shorty's in the church praising God. The problem was, I was going to church when I was younger, not understanding what it means to have a relationship. I was going to church for music, going to church for the girls, going to church for the vending machines, and then go eat at back then it was Old Country Buffet or Shooters or wherever you went. That's what church was for a young person. You went to kick it. You went to be with your friends. You did receive God, but and I'm not saying that it wasn't taught. I did not get how to live for God outside of that. The four walls of the building they call church. And later I learned that that's not the church. We are the church. And when I learned that we are the church, it shifted my mind of what does the church look like? How should I carry myself? There are so many things in the world to accept you in, as we know today, and it's getting worse. The world is accepting anybody. Look, if you want love, the world got it. You know what I'm saying? Now will it be fulfilling to you at every moment in your life? No. And that's what I did. And we can get deep. I found God for real. I got baptized at 9 at my home church, Victory Apostolic. But I had to get baptized again. Honestly, and I could be real. My pastor did the altar call, and I was just excited to see the pool. I'm like, look, I'm about to jump in the pool. Like,
to see
what?
The pool.
My church always had a type of pool, so it's like to see that this ain't okay, cool. But later years started to get tested.
Yeah.
You know, as I started growing up, I was always smart for my age. But one of my biggest things that allowed me to see God in a different manner is honestly my lack of self-esteem. My lack of self-esteem. I dealt with a huge stuttering issue growing up. Huge. I'm talking about to the point where it could have been a suicidal type of ordeal, depression, really hard.
Wow, yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. And if you do know that, you know my struggle, what I've went through for years, trying to articulate how good God has been to me. And when you can't articulate it, sometimes you forget how God has been good to you.
Wow.
So you hold it in, and then you start doing other stuff to avoid the pain of all the hurt that you're experiencing with people talking about you, people looking at you funny.
Yeah.
So guess what? You try things. You start drinking. You start smoking. You start being sexual. You start doing things that you know you was brought up. And I was raised in church. I was raised. I'm a pew baby. I ain't gonna lie to y'all.
Yeah.
It ain't, you know, I'm not one of the people that wasn't raised in church. So I was raised in the church. But like I said, going to church does not make you a Christian. It doesn't make you a believer.
Sure.
It doesn't make you any of those things. What makes you the believer that God calls you to be is the way you walk when you leave that building.
Absolutely.
10% of your ministry, 10% of it is on that Sunday morning or like whenever you're there. But 90% of your ministry is when you leave them that church.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so with that, I want to ask you, because you shared, you know, growing up with stuttering and being made fun of and dealing with that.
Yeah.
And have you ever experienced being rejected or not called upon to do certain things, you know, and people not accepting you because of that?
My life is built on rejection. My life, where I'm at today, is because of rejection. God is putting me on, you know, that you know, when it says that He'll make your enemies your footstool. That's how I've got to everywhere I've gotten to. The crazy thing about it, I was actually talking to my wife about this yesterday. How I've always been the loyal person. If you need somebody to fight for you, you call Vernon. You know what I'm saying? That was always me. And I think what stemmed from that was the anger, number one, I had from already you talking about me, but I overlooked the anger of you talking about me, and I use it in different ways to be cool. So now, at least if I stutter, you know I'm gonna ride for you. You know, when it comes to fighting or when it comes to somebody messing with you, I'm gonna ride for you. And I think that rejection, because I'm still getting rejected today, y'all. I hate to say it, and usually when you're anointed, usually when God wants to use you in a mighty way, usually when your heart is right, usually when you do it for the right reasons.
Sure, yeah.
I'll be honest, usually you get rejected. You know what I'm saying? When you're doing it for the clout, when you're doing it for the likes, when you're doing it for the attention, you gonna get it.
Yeah.
You know, and to be honest, I feel like I'm at the place now where I've accepted rejection. I've accepted it now. And so whether you like me or not, whether you tell me that my music is good, whether you tell me that I'm walking right, whether you tell me that I've you know, I had to push to get my degree because look, I tell my wife, and she was one of them, she prayed for me on the phone my last semester at school, and I told her this ain't for me. Like I love school, but the institutionalized way of learning sometimes is that's just what happens. So yeah, that's rejection has been a part of my journey.
Wow. And so and before we go into our commercial set, what maybe 2 or 3 things or 2 or 3 steps you use to process, and although I'm being rejected, I'm still going to love me. I still accepted myself. Like did you receive help from like a mentor or from a church friend to help you process this, or did you kind of do it on your own, your family?
Wow, that is. I know we okay. So
no,
quick,
you're fine.
Quick. That's a great question. I could be honest with you and say that rejection put me in a lot of lonely spaces, and caused me to really dig deep. Now being in, I'm a servant. I love to serve.
Absolutely.
So for me, just being in places with people that are great, that's what influences me.
Okay.
It inspires me. I ain't gotta be touching the drum. I ain't gotta be speaking. I ain't gotta be talking. I ain't gotta be doing anything musical. Sitting in the room like how we sitting right now, and being in the room, that's how God speaks to me. Right? I'm gonna get you there. You know, greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. Like I'm going to fulfill the wants that you have. And that's why I'm surrounding you by these good people, for you to continue to be motivated, because the people that you're around in school, the people that you know, are constantly with, the girlfriend that you had, there are so many things that
that's it right
you're not getting. And I promise you, you start living your spiritual, or walking your spiritual walk for the convenience of others.
Whew.
And when you start walking for people, I'm be honest, man, first of all, you won't never get nothing done. It's just like having a group project. If I'm gonna continue to wait on you to do your part, we're not gonna listen. And I know all of us hated group projects at some point. Because you're like, bro, bro, don't. Man, I'm gonna pull up in a minute. Do you part? And so for me, that's what it was. I was walking for the convenience to allow people to feel okay in their sin. And then which allowed me to still be a part of my sin because of them. I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. I've seen some pastors. I've been in rooms, and I promise you, I've been in green rooms, and you wouldn't believe the stuff that I'm hearing. Like, wow. Oh, so he can preach, and then we can go get a drink.
Wow.
I'm telling y'all, convenience, man. People do what's convenient for them. But I know, come on.
So it's all about people, beloved. It's your group of people that you socialize with.
Jeez.
Honestly, because if you socialize yourself with those who are depressed, who don't like themselves, who don't really care about their physical being, then I know you try to be helpful and you try to be the one that stands out, but I think we can all attest to say that it gets easier to stoop down and do what they do as opposed to you trying to pull them up, for sure. And so social gathering, social rounding, having a great support system, for sure, to help you in dealing with and processing with if you ever experience rejection. And again, it can come from family, unfortunately. It can come from friends, unfortunately. It can come from your church family, unfortunately. It can come from people at your job, unfortunately. Your community is a big one because the color of your skin. Unfortunately, we all experience that. But if you surround yourself with positive people, like-minded people who are willing to push past that and say, you know what, whether you like me or not, whether you love me or not, I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to love me. I'm still going to trust God that how he created me,
that's what it is.
That how he created me is exactly how I'm supposed to be, and walk in it and walk through it, you'll be fine. So Vernon, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for, I appreciate it. I appreciate your transparency. I appreciate you being open and honest with us. We're going to take a commercial break. We're going to take a commercial break. And then for anybody who have any questions, you may jot them down and we'll be right back. Awesome. Oh my God, she left us. I didn't know. I didn't know if it says one person gonna be on at a time. questions whatsoever, you may feel free to do so. We would love to hear your comments or your questions for sure. And of course, I'm sure Vernon is happy to answer anything that anybody may have. For sure.
Anything. Feel free.
And so, while we're waiting for people to comment and to leave their questions for sure, what would you guys say, Makai and Vernon, both together? You guys can answer this. Do you all believe it's harder for people to heal from rejection if it started at a young age, like a kid, or once you get in high school or into adulthood? And dealing with rejection, do you think people find it easier to heal from that, at what stage in life? Like, for example, maybe kids, they might experience it, but then they may forget about it. Maybe as adults, it may be harder. We might find it harder to forgive. But just as an example, what stage you all think?
I think rejection, the stage is really when you come into more of adulthood, because we do experience what we have is prenatal rejection. Wow. So oftentimes when someone is in the womb, they're already experiencing rejection from the womb. And from that comes what parents may not want in the child. It could have been unexpected. The father may not want a child. So we deal with that prenatal rejection. And oftentimes it doesn't manifest until we get older, or we don't see the fruits of that rejection until we get older. And we start to see things that begin to trigger us that makes us feel rejected. And I know you mentioned earlier that rejection led you into a lot of lonely spaces. Yeah. And you can oftentimes see it even with parents and their children. If you have a child that's a loner, that may be around a whole lot of people, and oftentimes they will go and isolate themselves. That could be from the fact that they are suffering with prenatal rejection. Wow. And to that child can actually interpret or understand that this is a trigger of rejection from the womb, or this is a trigger from my own self-rejection. It may not be until we're older. And oftentimes as adults, we still experience that rejection. If something can trigger that one thing that reminded us when we were 2 and 3 years old, absolutely, and it'll lead us back once again into that lonely space. Yeah. And oftentimes as an adult, what we do is isolate ourselves. Yeah. And then let us not be Christian adults when we isolate ourselves. We blame it on, I'm isolating myself for God. I don't want to deal with nobody. I want God to deal with me. When honestly, it's still surfacing from that rejection. So I think rejection is a daily process, all right? So even when we repent, which is changing your mindset of how you feel about the rejection and even accepting it, it's still a daily process. So I don't think there's an age group that you can put it in and get rid of it. I think it's something that daily you have to deal with. And when you see those things, and notice those triggers that bring back that rejection. So I think that comes with a lot of self-awareness, being aware of self and things that cause you to go back down that road.
I'm glad you said to self-awareness, because beloved, sometimes you personally may not be self-aware of your triggers and how you are responding to that, but maybe those that are close to you may mention that, and again, sometimes it could come from family support or friends, but even sometimes outside resources, your mentor, your therapist, a close friend of the family, may mention that, and it's all because they just want to help you. They just want to help you process it because they know you yourself is a great person. You're a great person. They love you just as you are, for sure. Vernon, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially for me, because I'm telling you, I feel like I'm still to this day dealing with rejection. And even because, you
technology is sometimes, especially because nowadays everybody is streaming, everybody's going live, right. Everybody's using technology. So sometimes we have these moments, and I'm sure it's no stranger to us whatsoever. Sometimes we have these moments, but I just want to see if they can chime in. Are you guys good?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Great. We just have a couple of more minutes left before we move on to our next segment, but I just wanted to see if there was anything that you all wanted to add.
I just wanted to add, someone had said the phrase mindset. I think it's very important when we are dealing with rejection. It has to, in order for it to occur, it has to be a mindset shift in order for a difference. So I think that is very important to highlight. And I know Vernon was talking about his process and his transition. And so it just made me think of something had to occur for that mindset. Is there, just a tidbit that you give to someone who's stuck in that cycle of just rejection, doesn't feel like, how do I get myself out?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and we've always speak about finding the root of everything. So we really have to be able to take a moment to not only address the symptoms, but really look at the root of the problem. Where did the rejection start? How did we first become introduced to rejection, and how were we taught to respond to it? So I think that's something that we really have to be able to go back in order to go forward. And that process and journey backwards can be a little difficult, but it's so necessary in order to make, a new decision moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. I really like that you said discovering the root of the problem. And I believe sometimes us as people, we're not willing sometimes to discover and dig deep to really get the root of the problem, to get a better understanding. We kind of just go about our day like, oh, I'll be all right. Oh, I'll be okay. It's not a big deal. I'll get over it. They'll tell me to get over it, but honestly, you aren't. All you're doing is bottling all of that inside, and then that grows and develops the more that you're being exposed to rejection in different areas in your life. And the next thing you know, you just have levels of it. And then one day something will happen, and that tip of the iceberg, and boom, you release a whole lot of anger. You release a whole lot of frustration, irritation, even to the point where you don't even recognize who you are.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard for people
to
be able to do that. There's not a lot of safe spaces sometimes, and we're looking for those safe spaces to be able to effectively, communicate, express, just have a place to feel that it's okay and our emotions are valid. But oftentimes we don't always see those safe, healthy places where we can be able to express that. So hopefully this is a safe space for people to be able to connect with us and connect with the ministry, and then, allowing us to help, whoever may come across us, to be able to connect them to the right resources as well.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because it does break my heart. And of course, I'm a church person too. I love God, but it is unfortunate that even in our church home, our church places, those aren't safe spaces, unfortunately. And then even, or with our families, with people who say they love us. And then sometimes when we go to them, when we're dealing with things, they're like, you're too emotional. You too sensitive. Get over it. You'll be all right. I dealt with that, but I got over it, and so will you. And we get those kind of responses, unfortunately. But it is one of my passions, and one of the things I know for sure God created. just as they are, not for them to change how they related, how they interject, how they respond to it, how they share. They can blow. I tell people, hey, if you just need a session where you just want to yell and scream and I just sit here, that's perfectly fine. If you have a session where you just want to cry it out, that's fine. If you have a session where you know what, I'm okay, I'm not mad at you, I just want to sit in silence, that's fine. Yeah. And accepting them just like that, but allowing people to be themselves and not look down upon them because they have those moments. Because let's be real, everybody have those moments. Yeah. Everybody does. Yeah. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you male. I don't care if you female. I don't care if you black. I don't care if you white. I don't care if you Asian. I don't care if you Latino. I don't care if you live in the United States. I don't care if you live in Israel, Australia. Everybody has a moment like that. And so we as a people just have to be more supportive. So thank you all so much for sharing. Vernon, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
We definitely appreciate you.
Yes, appreciate you guys.
We're going to go right into another commercial, but stay tuned because we have one more guest who is here with us today, and we are definitely excited to get some more perspectives from her view. But this has been awesome thus far, so we hope that you all have been enjoying, and we'll be right back. Awesome. Thanks, bro.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Good job.
Thank you. Yes, nice to meet you.
He has a gift bag that's on the.
Oh, come on. Just keep it. Just keep it. Don't get it to me.
Yes,
thus far,
really good.
Man, I love that Vernon was very open and he was transparent and that he was open and honest and just sharing his testimony and sharing his experience. We really need people to be more open and honest. And I know it's tough. I know a lot of times people don't want to just tell their business, you know, and share their flaw areas, you know, to the world, to everybody. But honestly, it helps. It's encouraging. It's really encouraging when you hear from someone else, you know, that man that they struggle with that too.
Yeah.
But look how they overcame.
Absolutely.
Look where they are now.
Father.
And they're doing well and they're doing great. It's still tough for them. Mm-hmm. It's still tough, but they push past it.
Yeah.
And that's great to hear and that's great to know. And it's one of those things, you know, if they can do it, so can I. Yeah. But in the positive aspect, because I know some of y'all gonna be like, yeah, if they can do, you know, drinking, smoking, having sex and all of that, then so can I. And I'm like, no, that's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying more
a lot, especially the church world, they go back to what about deliverance? Deliverance is simply detaching from the fact that, hey, I do deal with rejection, but I detach myself from that rejection so that I can live. And then you had the rinse part, we move forward. So if I can detach from it, live and move forward. It does not take away the fact that it still may come and present itself. But I've detached myself. Sure. So I think that's a lot of times we get mixed up too. Well, you can deliver. God is ultimately deliver. Absolutely. Yes. We have to take a deeper look at that word deliverance. Right. It really means to be free from that rejection.
Absolutely. I love that. Detaching ourselves, no longer accepting it, no longer being married to it.
Yeah,
as our leader, Psalmist, right? You're not covenant with that, y'all. Right. Don't marry that. Shout out to our founder, Psalmist Ray. We appreciate her so much. She couldn't be with us today because she is out serving, but we definitely appreciate her for allowing us to do this. Absolutely. But I just hear that in the back of my head, like, y'all don't marry that. Don't stay in covenant with that. Get out of that. Absolutely. Don't accept that. And I'm like, we be like, yes, ma'am. Right. Yes, mom. Right. Yes, ma'am.
You're right about it.
Absolutely. All right, beloveds. Well, hopefully you are enjoying this thus far. We have with us another wonderful special guest who is small in stature, but that woman is a giant. Y'all hear me? She is a giant. We have with us today Sister Pastor Asia Hatley Smith, who is from Arkadelphia, Arkansas. Okay. I probably said that wrong.
She'll say Arkansas.
There it is. She from Arkansas, y'all. Listen, she from Arkansas, but she live here with us. Amen. So she attended the University of Arkansas in Pine Bluff studying social work. So she is familiar with this field. But she truly has a heart for God's people. And being saved at a young age, she started teaching when she was just 12 years old. She started preaching her first sermon when she was 21, and she was very open and honest with me, saying, that she struggled for many years, even herself, trying to fit in. But until God revealed, that she was called to be different. And she has processed and accepted that as well. And one of her favorite scriptures that she used to help her with it is 1 Timothy 4:12, which says, don't let anyone look down upon you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. And so it is her goal and her passion to see this generation and the generations to come truly walk in true discipleship and acceptance. So, ladies and gentlemen, we now present to you Sister Pastor Twin Asia Smith. Woo! Hello. Everybody say we look alike. Everybody say we twins.
Might be.
Right, exactly. It's a lot.
Twins a couple of years apart and from different locations.
Twins a couple of years
apart. Stranger things.
Y'all, we're a refreshed family. We're a family here. We like to enjoy ourselves. We love to have fun. We enjoy each other's company. So yes, we're gonna laugh. We're gonna have fun, and so it helps us. But this is who we are. Honestly, this is just who we are. This is just how we are. But thank you.
Most definitely.
Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for the invite. I'm just glad to be in the number.
Absolutely. Well, you have so much, and I've known you for a couple of years, but you have experienced so much.
Yeah.
So much. Like your life. Wow. Like I couldn't think of a better person who will be able to really provide some tips and solutions and some transparency because of just what you have gone through personally. But share us and tell us, a little bit background on what you do in the social work field specifically.
So, social work field wise, I've actually done a lot. I mainly work with children. I have worked with children from infants to honestly 18 and even some young adults. Currently, what I do is I am a case manager for a privatized agency under DCFS called One Hope United. What I do there is I do case management. Originally, I worked with what we call Baby Court or ECCT, which is an early childhood courtroom team. So basically, I work for the agency that comes in and makes sure that there's no child neglect, no child abuse, and things like that. And I work with making sure that the kids or teens are okay, as well as I also work with the parents, making sure that they do the services needed, whether it's parenting classes, substance abuse training, domestic violence, making sure that they have what they need so that they can actually be in right standings with the court to be reunited with their children. Or even working with foster parents or potentially adoptive parents and getting them the resources they need to properly foster these children or adopt these children. However, prior to working there, I actually worked at a place while in Arkansas called Methodist Family Health, where I worked at a residential facility for children who had emotional, mental health issues. These children were living there medium, kind of like short to long term. So they were there a minimum of 90 days. Most of them stayed longer. And these children who were, teens who had bipolar issues or who tend to go manic and, a lot of behavioral issues that were connected to a mental health issue or an emotional mental health issue. And so we worked with them on what we called a specific behavior model, where we taught two behaviors. So they actually earned positive points for doing things well, like if they said something like thank you, or if they, if something happened and they showed great behavioral or impulse control, they would earn points for behavior or for positive actions. And in the same manner, they would lose points for negative actions. And so we would teach more so to behaviors. I was actually called a behavior instructor. So we taught to things like saying thank you, hygiene, impulse control, listening skills. We taught to those behaviors. So that's mostly what I've done.
Like what you've done, and that is awesome, and that is fantastic. And again, you also, along with our first guest, work with youth. A lot more with young people, and as a working with the DCFS, collaborating with them. In your experience with youth, do you believe their outcome or their behaviors is connected because they feel rejected or neglected from their parent, guardian, and they don't feel loved, or maybe they don't feel supported? Or do you think it's genetic, just something that's just within them?
I would say my answer is twofold.
Okay.
I can't say that I agree with one perception or the other. Reason being is because we do know that things like bipolar, some forms of types of anxiety, it's not necessarily something that can be passed down from genetics, but you can be more prone to it if it is in your history, in your family history.
Yes.
However, a lot of these things do happen and are triggered by things that happen to you in your life and in your lifespan. Anxiety is something that you can definitely kind of get through life experiences. And I actually just read not too long ago. I know I don't look it, but I actually just gave birth to a baby. She's 1 month old. And throughout my pregnancy, I had a lot of time to just Google stuff. And I'm also in school for my master's, so I was like Googling things and reading things. And there's actually a huge connection to when an infant or a newborn cries for long periods of time. And a lot of times we kind of say, oh, we're just going to let them cry it out, or we're trying to teach them to self-soothe. Doing that too early can actually lead to anxiety, depression, and feelings of rejection and neglect.
Wow.
And infants will internalize that in their brain, and they feel as if they are being neglected or if they are feeling rejected. And it can actually lead to anxiety and depression later on in life. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
So it's small things like that can lead to it. And then especially growing up, if you grew up in an area where you feel like you always have to worry or you have to do this, then those are little things that can eventually pile up on top and lead to you having anxiety. Those, or even on the back end, things like that can lead to you having depression or things like that. So it's a lot of things that can go into it. But I'll say that not everything is preventable, but everything is something that needs to be talked about. And I think that's something that we don't do enough is, not everybody knows that something as small as letting your infant cry too long can lead to them having anxiety before they hit age 12.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is make sure that when we see those signs of them always worrying, always being overly cautious, always feeling like they have some type of anxiety or those type of things, we need to start having those conversations. As parents, we have to be aware of those things and not be afraid to talk about it, not be afraid to get out and get help, because learning those coping skills earlier can help a whole lot when you get older.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a huge thing is, especially working in the behavior facility that I worked at, is if there were things that, if we would have taught you basic coping skills when you were coming up, then by the time you hit 18, you wouldn't be having full-on meltdowns because you don't know how to cope. And so that to me is a huge thing is, I may not be able to cure your anxiety, but I want you to feel like it's okay. And it doesn't make you an outcast. It doesn't make you a black sheep because you have anxiety or depression or anything like that. So
absolutely. That's really, really, really good. And so one of the things that you stated, I absolutely agree. And it's in the word of God. People perish because of lack of knowledge. Just I don't know what to do, or I'm not aware that this is what I should have done, which could have prevented A, B, C, D, E. Like, had I known it before I got to A, I would have been okay. But that takes communication. That takes us as people sharing that knowledge and not holding it within because we feel, well, I had to research it. They need to research it too. We should all, again, be a support system for each other. Absolutely.
And it's part of being your brothers and sisters keeper. Is, if I have information, and of course you don't have to be haughty about it, and you don't have to be, you have to make a big deal of, but hey, here's some information. This is what I know. If you don't want to take my word for it, you can look it up. But this is something that I know, and you may find it helpful.
Right.
And be okay with sharing that information, and it doesn't make you smarter, it doesn't make you better. But we live in a day and age where it's so easy to find information. You can Google at the touch of your phone. And we always have our phones on our hand, so it's so easy to get to that information. So if you have it, don't be a hoarder of information. Share it. Send links out, send text messages out. That's also a part of being your brother's sister's keeper. It's not just about reaching out and saying, hey, are you okay? But hey, here's some information that I have. Let me share this with you. Here's some tips that I have that helped me. Let me share that with you. So different things like that.
I'm glad that you mentioned that as well, because of course in working with children and parents and try to advocate for the kids to make sure that when they go back to home, it's a safe environment for them. Do you find it difficult, or have you found it difficult to share information with parents so that they can become a better them?
For me, I say it's all about packaging. And this is something I learned actually a long time ago when I first was doing training for the residential facility. Is sometimes it's very hard for people to receive things, especially when it's negatively about them. If you are a person who you're harsh, and I say, hey, you're a very harsh person, that can be hard to hear. And so sometimes you have to package your bad news with a pretty bow. And so it's all about packaging. And so when I talk to my parents, I tell them, like, the conversations I have is I first make sure that they have an understanding of what exactly is going on. So a lot of times my first meeting with my parents is I want to know if you know why your kids were taken. And I tell them upfront, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not saying that any of these allegations are true, because we all are very aware that sometimes things happen, and what the judge says happened is not always true, and that is not my job.
Right.
And I tell them my job is not here to say what did or did not happen. My job is to prevent any further issues and to prove to the court and to make sure, of my own knowledge and of my own doing, that if I return these kids to you, they're gonna be safe. And so that is always my goal, is reunification. So do you know why your kids were taken? And they say something, they said this and they said that. Well, hey, what are you dealing with? What are your issues? And let me tell you what I have and what my information says. And let's come together and let's talk about what we can do together, because I know a lot of people in my field are used to being told, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this.
Right.
I work together with my clients.
That's
and I
good.
say, you know, here are all the options I can give you. You tell me which of these options work for you, and let's work together, because we're a team.
Right, absolutely.
It's not just me telling you what to do.
Absolutely.
Because especially, and this works with my field, but it works with friends, family, and whoever. If we work together to come up with a game plan on how we're going to move forward, then you're more likely to put your all into it, rather than you're just going to the class, or you're just doing it because I told you to. But when we come together and we decide, you know, hey, you need individual therapy, you're not just going to go and sit and get the therapy just because I told you to, but you're fully engaging and you're fully talk about it. The way that I connect with them is I mostly say, you know what, hey, you know, you just had a baby taken. How are you dealing with that? Is that giving you any anxiety? Is that giving you any depression? Because although the case may have been indicated for domestic violence and you don't want to talk about that, if I can get you to open up about your feelings about, you know, your 6-month-old was just taken from your home, that gives me a window.
Oh, yeah.
That gives me a window.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like I said, no one wants a stranger to come in and tell you how to run your home, or no one wants a stranger to come in and tell you everything that you're doing wrong. You already have emotions that you're dealing with because of what just happened. And so, like I said, my clients are not just the children, but they're the parents as well.
Right.
And so I have to check up on them. How are you dealing with the fact that, you know, little John, you know, was taken from your home? How do you feel? Like, how are you dealing with that? How are you coping? Are you having any anxiety? Are you having feelings of depression?
Yes.
Because, like I said, even if it is a domestic violence case, and you may not want to talk about that, if I can get you to open up about that, we have a window. I have something to work with.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of how I try to get in is I wrap it in a pretty bow, and I make sure that we all know that we're a team. It's not me telling you what to do. It's me working with you to get to a common goal.
And that's, I'm glad that you said that, and thank you for sharing that, because that's all a part of acceptance. You know, with parents accepting, like, man, you know, the situation that I'm in, it's not the best. It's not helpful for me and my kids right now. So it may be hard for them to accept the reality of what actually occurred, you know, but we've all made mistakes. You know, we all make mistakes, and in the processing of life, you know, and even with your own past mistakes, I'm sure in which you have made, have you ever felt, though, because due to the mistakes that you've made, have you ever felt that, you know, I'm just not good enough? You know,
all the time.
Oh my goodness.
I can say that's probably one of the biggest things that I've ever dealt with is, and it took actually recently, like the last year and a half, I really had to dig down and get to the root of where that came from. Because I am one that I'm a doer. I see something needs to be done, I have to do it. And when something falls down or something doesn't get done, my first thought is, I didn't do enough. I failed. And it doesn't like I could be, let's say I'm driving and my car breaks down, and it has nothing to do with me.
Right.
In that moment, my mindset was, I failed because I allowed this to happen. It's my car, it's in my possession. I'm supposed to be taking care of it, and I let it break down for whatever reason. And I would be so hard on myself. And I really traced that back to some things that happened in my childhood. And I had to really, really spend time, one, allowing God to minister to me.
Sure.
But two, and this is, I think in the last year, one of the things that I found that is so important is we have to realize that one of the biggest things with acceptance is accepting where we actually are.
That's good.
A lot of times we don't like to deal with where we set these goals on, I want to be here.
Right.
But we don't actually establish where we are.
Yes.
And it took me some real time to say, okay, this is where I am.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that to speak negativity on myself, but I have to be real.
Yes.
And I think like maybe 4 years ago, I actually preached a sermon series called Be Real. And it was be real with yourself, be real with God, and then be real with others.
That's good. That's really good.
Because you have to be real with yourself. Because before I can go to God, and I always say it like this, Adam and Eve were naked.
Right.
And they were naked before the Lord, and they were unashamed.
Yes.
Our issue is we put on clothes and go to God.
Wow.
That's good.
Wow.
We cover ourselves up, and we try to wrap ourselves in false perfection.
Yes.
And then we go to God. and we want you to see me in my false perfection. When the truth is, I need to take off all these false perceptions.
Come on now,
yes. I need to take off all of these things that I want, all of these goals that I'm not at, and I need to come to God as I am.
Yes.
But I cannot go to God as I am until I accept where I am.
Wow, that's good.
As we skip that step, I'm gonna go to God and I'm gonna tell him my goals, I'm gonna tell him my dreams, and I want him to see me for what I want to be. But I need you to help and heal me where I am.
Yes.
I have to realize that, hey, and being totally honest, I am diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And for a long time, I tried to detach myself from it, as if that's it and this is me. And it took me a time where I had to sit and say, hey, I have this. And instead of trying to make it a separate thing from me, let me figure out how to cope with it. Let me understand what this means for me. And when I got to the point where I said, this is where I am, now that I know where I am, I can move forward positively.
Yes.
Because now I can move forward with correct coping skills.
Yes.
I can start searching for what triggers me. So when I see it, I know it.
Yes.
So hey, that is going to trigger me. So either I need to have coping skills ready, or I need to prepare myself mentally so that I'm not walking into something that I'm already going to be set up for failure with.
Now, and I'm going to ask you a question. Did you get to that place within 6 months?
No.
Did you get to that place within a year?
Not really. I'll be honest, it is an everyday process. Every day I have to wake up and I have to, assess where I am. It's an everyday thing. It's a part of life. And that's whether you deal with anxiety as and general anxiety disorder, or whether you just have a little bit of anxiety today because you have a big event or something's happening in your life, or a major life event. Every day is a battle, but every day that you get to the next day, you win.
Yes.
My great grandfather used to say, today is September 26, 2020. Today is the only day you will ever see September 26, 2020.
Yes.
Whatever you do today, you make the most of it. But as long as you make it to September 27th, you won. You conquered the 26th because you made it to the 27th.
That's good.
So I don't look at it as or I try to look at every day as it's not a pass or fail. It's not a fail or succeed. I made it.
Yeah.
And I may have made some mistakes along the way, but I think there are plenty of quotes out there that says I didn't fail. I just found a bunch of ways that didn't work.
Yes. I see that. Yes. And I love it. I love it.
Today I may not have made all of the best decisions, but I didn't fail. I just realized how to make better decisions.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I have to take the day is I get up and I try to prepare myself. Even now, this has been one of the craziest years for me. In the last 365 days, I have gotten married, had a child, and closed on a new home.
Come on.
All of the years. Thank you so much. But I can tell you, as much as, it sounds great, there was so much stress in that.
Sure.
And I had to get up every day and say, let me plan for this. Like, the past few days, I have gotten up and, okay, I need to run down what tomorrow's going to look like. If for no other reason than I'm mentally prepared. Now, I may get up tomorrow and something may happen and this whole plan may go absolutely out the window. But let me be prepared.
Sure.
So that, because for me, a lot of tension and moving around, that will spare up my anxiety. I'm okay with spontaneous things, but as long as I know there's an end goal and we're working towards something, I'm okay. But I need to know in my mind. And if everything goes out the window, I'm cool.
Yes.
I just need to know. And once I'm prepared for that, I'm fine. So every morning I have to get up and say, okay, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do this today. And then I'm good.
Yes.
And then I also have to prepare myself in the back of my mind. If my goal today is I'm going to buy new shoes, and today ends and I didn't buy new shoes, I didn't fail.
Right. Right.
I can always buy new shoes tomorrow.
Right.
And that's the thing is, you have to keep in mind that you didn't fail. You may not have accomplished what you meant to accomplish today, but all in all, you made it through today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
that's really, really good. I mean, that is phenomenal. I mean, wow, what such a well-course, beautiful meal that she just fed us with really great insight and positive information about one, being aware of your challenges and your flaws, but instead of hiding it or putting under a rug or setting it away from you, accepting it like, this is part of who I am. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to learn how to manage it better. I'm going to get the support that I need to build up my coping skills and things that I can use, understand my triggers, understand what my triggers are, so that if I see something or I'm in a position where I may be triggered or I am triggered, I'm prepared.
Right.
So planning and preparing is very, and patience. Being good, yeah.
Because like for me, I'll say when I first was diagnosed, I actually was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and a very rare form of OCD. And the first thing that we started was counseling. My first counselor didn't like her. Not gonna lie. She didn't do anything wrong. I just didn't feel like it was helping.
Sure.
Like we would go in and she would ask me a lot of questions about my life now, but I didn't feel like it was making any connections to actually helping me. Like we're having a lot of conversations, but I don't feel like I'm getting any better. I'm not getting any coping skills. And so that was the counselor for me. And a lot of people may get stuck right there. And I'm not saying just for counseling in general, but you may try one form of assistance or one form of support. And when you feel like that one doesn't help, you stop right there.
Stop right.
Like,
yeah.
It didn't work. I'm broken. I suck at life.
Right.
And reality is that just might not have been the solution for you.
Sure. Yeah.
And you can almost even equate this to math. Is if you're doing multiplication,
right?
If you do 5 times 3, you can do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15.
Right.
Or you can do 5, 10, 15.
Right. Exactly.
Or you can write down a whole bunch of and do a lot of addition. But there are multiple ways to get to the fact the answer is 15.
Right.
You have to find the way that works for you.
Yes.
And so you may try counseling and that particular counselor may not work for you. You may try something else and that may not be what works for you. Be patient with others and be patient with yourself.
Absolutely.
Know that it's okay to need help.
Absolutely.
Know that it's okay to have moments when you're not okay.
Right.
And know that just because something did not work for you doesn't mean that you're broken.
Yes.
You're not broken. And I think that's the most important thing to realize. And that's something that I got stuck at often. And I'm not gonna lie, I used to say, you know what, God, I'm not passing this test because I keep going back to it. So I ain't doing this one right.
I had those moments too.
But that was hard for me because I would always, anytime, like I said, I tried therapy and I felt like it didn't work. And it wasn't because she was bad, it's because I'm broken. It's me. I'm the problem. And I got there a lot of times. I'm like, if this is, it has to be something that's wrong with me. And it took me a long time to get to that point where I got an understanding of it's okay. And I think that is where we get so stuck at, is we don't understand that things happen. And even though things happen, it doesn't mean that you're a problem.
Right.
And even if, like, let's say I do something and I make a mistake, that doesn't make me bad. I did something that had negative consequences.
Right.
But that doesn't make me bad. That doesn't make me broken.
Right.
And again, at the end of the day, if you make it to day 2,
right,
then you're good.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's ever seen this a stupid comedy show called Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. It's on Netflix. If you have not seen it while you're in your quarantine lockdown days, if you need a laugh, go watch it. I promise you will laugh all day. But one of the things that she says is you can survive just about anything for 10 seconds. And so she's like doing all these like random, strenuous things, and the whole time she's doing it, she's just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and she starts over. And I thought that is so dumb. Because some of the things that she was doing was like absolutely outrageous. But I actually have taken that, and some of my hardest moments, I apply that. Yeah. And so in those moments where like I feel like I am about to break, I breathe and I just count to 10.
Yes.
And I don't count to 10 as I'm trying to calm down. I count to 10 as my own way of saying I've accomplished 10 seconds.
Oh, that's great. That's
so
really good.
It gives me something to
a
celebrate.
Perspective.
In this, right now, life seems unbearable.
Mm-hmm.
But I counted to 10 and I made it 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Not just to make it 10 more.
Wow.
And so eventually I've calmed myself down to the point to where I can start clearing my headspace and I can start thinking, okay, now let's find solutions.
Yeah.
Now let's try some coping skills. Now let's see what I can do, what I need to do. Let's move forward. But like I said, once you get past that feeling of you're not a failure, you're not broken, that's not how God created you and that's not how God sees you. And so you have to change the lenses and the perspective of yourself.
Yes.
Take those 10 seconds and celebrate the small victories.
Absolutely.
10
That's
seconds,
it right there.
10 seconds may not feel like a lot, but I promise you, if you're standing on the edge of a bridge and there's nothing between you and 20 feet in water, then those 10 seconds, and every 10 seconds you're taking a step backwards instead of a step forward.
Yep.
That is an accomplishment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I again, for someone who has anxiety and has had anxiety attacks, and if anybody online or streaming is watching and they've ever had or suffered with any type of anxiety, or when they've had those moments where they feel like life is choking them out and you're trying to breathe and you can't, that first moment where you get breath feels like literally the world has been lifted off of you.
Wow.
And so taking those 10 seconds saying, man, I made it 10 seconds.
Yes.
That level of accomplishment it's huge and it's worthy of being celebrated, because there are so many people who, they didn't make it 10 seconds.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That moment right then where they feel like it was too much and they ended it. So you making it 10 seconds is 10 seconds longer than somebody else. And when you start the 10 seconds over, now it's 20 seconds longer than somebody else. So celebrate the small victories and give yourself time to be patient. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither was Noah's Ark.
Right,
but nevertheless, they all made it to achievement.
Right.
So it works. Celebrate the small stuff. You may not have, like going back to my scenario of your goal of buying shoes today. I may not have bought shoes today, but I now know what shoes I want.
Right.
Now when I go to the store, I now don't have to walk around aimlessly into every, shoe store that there is on every block. I know exactly what shoe that I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. So I'm closer to the goal. I may not have met it, but let me celebrate the small victory.
Yes.
And be patient with yourself.
Yes.
I can't stress that enough, because a lot of times we are quick. And that's something that I struggle with a lot, is I had the most patience in the world for other people, and my patience for myself was shorter than those fuses you light on bottle rockets. Like I had no patience. I had no patience for myself. And this is a saying that I say to myself is, Asia, extend to yourself the same grace you extend to others.
That's good.
Give yourself a second chance.
That is good.
And it makes a world of a difference. I know people are pep talks. I don't do pep talks. I just get up and no, I do pep talks. I talk myself up. It's a conversation between me, myself, and my spirit, and no one else is allowed in there but the Lord God, because we got to get ourselves together. And even times where there was a time where I had Post-it notes that I would have posted in my bathroom mirror, where I would hey, you're gonna make it. Or I would have scriptures up that built myself up. Or even as far as prophecies and words that I would see, I wrote those prophecies down and I warred with them. Scripture says, we go to war with our prophecies.
Right.
I warred with those things.
Yeah.
If Scripture says that I'm supposed to be, an entrepreneur and that I shall lack nothing, I'm gonna write that down every morning that I wake up. I don't care what my bank account says.
Right.
Because the word, God said this.
Right. Exactly.
God said this.
Yes.
And because his word will not return to him void.
Yes.
Then anytime I see lack, I don't say what I see.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something me and my husband actually talked about that a lot, going through the process of buying this house. There are many times he was like, you know what, I'm just going to give up. I don't think that this is going to work out. And I said, babe, we walk by faith.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter what we see.
Absolutely.
Even though all this looks chaotic, it looks crazy, it looks like a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't walk by this mess.
Right.
We walk by what God said. And if we truly believe that this is the house that God said is for us, then regardless of all that other stuff, this is what we're gonna get.
Yes.
And we got the reward in the end.
Absolutely.
And that you have to give yourself those pep talks, give yourself those one-on-one times, write down write down your prophecies, write down scriptures, and specifically if there's something that specifically you need to target, then that's what you need to be looking up. A friend of mine I used to work with, me and her worked in conjunction, teaching some youth. And we one day walked in and we said, what do you feel like God is calling you to? What do you feel like you're called to be? And it was a trick question because people are like, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a preacher. I'm going to be a psalmist. I'm going to be this, that, and the other. And I said, okay, now give me 5 scriptures that back up what you said you're going to be. And they're like, I know Romans.
Right.
I know Romans 3:16. I mean, I know John 3:16, and I know. Well, if you're gonna be something, you need scripture to back up what you're gonna be. Wow. Because we all know that Satan is gonna fight the minute it's released from your lips.
Absolutely, yeah.
Satan is gonna fight it.
Right, absolutely, yes. Wow, that is good. So good. That is very, very good. Thank you so much for sharing and giving us those different perspectives and seeing things from a different lens. Everybody doesn't have to see in the same lens. Well, we'll be right back. We're going to a commercial break. During this time, feel free to jot down any questions you may have for Pastor Asia, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
We live in a society where we are struggling with self-esteem because we are comparing ourselves to the world's standard of beauty. So I want to do this short reflective activity that you can do for those of you who may be struggling with self-esteem issues. So according to 1 Timothy 4:4, since everything God created is good, we should not reject any of it, but receive it with thanks. So this is saying I was created by God. And if I was created by God and everything God created was good, by default, I am good. So the reflective activity is looking at yourself in the mirror, calling out those things that you struggle with and calling them good. So my complexion is good. My high cheekbones are good. And anything else that you need to call out, simply because I was created by God, I am good. This means you are good.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Wow. What an awesome segment that we had with Pastor Asia. We definitely appreciate and thank you for coming in and really, really providing us with really, again, like a full course meal, sharing with us coping skills, giving us transparency, giving us solutions, food for thought, those hard times, and really sharing that not just with yourself, but with others. And so we currently see that we do not have any questions, but that is not a problem. If you all think of anything, you can jot them down later. Of course, you can email us for sure, and we would definitely get back with you. But Pastor Asia, while you were talking, I really appreciate you sharing that process and patience with yourself. And I'm sure you share that with others, not just with the youth that you work with, but with the adults and the parents as well. And so what have you what's some of the things that you provide that's kind of like your go-to starting point that you may provide, like right then and there?
My starting is, like I said, is always with asking them where they think they are.
Okay.
And I don't ask that question to be facetious. I ask it genuinely because, of course, when I start off with all my clients, of course, I'm provided with paperwork that says, like, I already know why the kids were taken into care. I already know, what issues are presented. They, by the time they get to me, they've already gone through an investigator and things like that. So I don't want to, rebeat the head in. I ask them simply where you are. How are you feeling? What's going on? What can I do to help you right now? Because especially for us people of color, it is very, very hard sometimes, or we struggle a lot with feeling heard. We're often talking and we feel like no one's hearing us. Yeah. And it becomes frustrating. And I've noticed that's an extreme pattern with my clients is they feel like they don't feel heard. Every time I'm calling them or every person I talk to, they're like, you know what, I did this, or I've been saying this for the longest and no one's paying me attention, or no one's doing anything, and no one's, well, what can I do? Yeah. Because I know a lot of times as caseworkers, as DCFS workers, we get a bad rep for people thinking that we are, you know, we're just working for the kids. Yeah. My client is the parents. And so if you're unhappy, for the most part, I have to make sure that I'm doing my job correctly. Yes. Because my job is to also service you. So when I call my clients and they're saying, you know, hey, and this is a huge thing that I got a lot with during the virus is with visitation. Parents are like, you know, we face-to-face visits aren't really happening right now. I want to see my kids more. One of the things that I did was I'm hearing your concerns. Yeah. And although, no, we can't, I can't go pick up your kid and bring them to you because my job's not going to let me. Let me call the foster parent and see if they'd be willing to send pictures more often. Let me call and see if we can set up some FaceTime visits or Google Duo visits so that you can, it's not the same as holding your kid, but at least you can talk to them. You can watch and track their small growths and their small developmental milestones. You can see that because it's very hard being separate, especially during those times. And so my biggest thing is how can I support you? Yes. What can I do for you?
And that's good because she's mentioning more than one way to support, because a lot of people feel, well, if we don't do it just this one way, then it can't be done. And that's the same thing even when we're going back to acceptance and the process of accepting ourselves. Maybe your mom had went through a certain amount of process, but that way may not work for you. And it's okay. But just finding another way that works. If you're someone that has experienced rejection, how you've taken that in or how it affected you or affected me could be different than how it would affect her. But how we feel, our feelings about it are still valid. That doesn't make her or me better than each other. It's just how we taking it in is different. And our process may be different. But eventually, like you said, we will get to the finish line. We will win. We will come out better in knowing ourselves. We will start to love ourselves again through the different avenues, through the different solutions that are placed in front of us. It's just up to us to figure out which direction we want to go, for us to get to that healing place, for us to get to that safe place, for us to get to that place of acceptance. For sure, absolutely. So that's very, very good.
I'll say, especially with the topic about seeing ourselves the way God sees us is, I did this explanation not too long ago where we talked about doing an exercise where we took like these big glasses and we sprayed like oil on them and then like smeared them all in the glasses, and then I put them on somebody and said, okay, now read this. And they're like, we can't see it. I said, exactly. I said, sometimes before we can actually see straight, we have to clear some of the clutter. So that means we have to remove some of the things that we've allowed to clutter our eyes. So that means you have to take away some of the things that people may have said to you during your childhood. You have to take away some of the things that people may have consistently called you, or things that you always believe about yourself that are just simply not true. Yes. But you can't see past it because it's cluttering your eyes. Wow. So you got to declutter that first. Yes. Because you can't see how God sees you if your lenses are not clean.
Come on, that's great right there. Listen, that's real good right there. I love that. Listen, I'm going to use that for myself. Wow, okay, so we do have a question. Thank you all so much. And so this question says, can you walk through the process of forgiving yourself when
dealing with rejection or disappointment
or disappointing yourself?
Yourself, okay. Sorry, guys, it's a bit far away. I know I got my glasses on, but
we all wear glasses and contacts up here, okay?
It's been a minute
our vision in 2020.
So forgiving yourself is it's a thing.
Yes.
And I would say it's not an immediate thing. I know people like to say, you know, just forgive and then move on. And I really wish that it was that simple. And in a way it is, but in a way it is also not, because for me personally, forgiving myself was something I had to do every day. Because every day I woke up with the same guilt of whatever was done. So although I may have forgiven myself yesterday, I still woke up feeling guilty the next day.
Yeah.
And so what I would say is, for me, and again, this is one of those things where everybody's process is different, but for me, I did a lot of writing, and I did a lot of reaffirming who I was. And that helped me to remember, again, who I really was. Scripture says, oh my God, I just lost it. Sorry, pregnancy brain is coming back.
Okay.
it says, faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So what are you hearing?
Yep.
If you're trying to forgive yourself, if you're trying to move yourself past or progress past something, then keep it in your hearing. Don't, and even in speech, when I talk, I can hear myself. So I need to make sure that everything I'm saying, everything I'm putting in my ears, whether it's music, whether I'm listening to a sermon series or a podcast or my friend's conversation or, you know, whatever, I need to make sure that my hearing lines up with the word of God pertaining whatever it is that I'm seeking for. So if that's forgiveness, then I need to make sure that that my speech, my even if I'm listening to, like I said, a podcast, that it's all focused around what I'm needing, so that it's continually in my hearing. And like I said about cleaning out the lenses, is go in and every negative thing, debunk it. If one of your things is, you know, I feel like I'm not enough, find every scripture that you can that says that you are.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you have to, and it's not an overnight thing, but work with yourself. Work with yourself till you believe it.
Absolutely.
Work with yourself until you know what, I am enough. I am who God says I am. I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
I am a royal priesthood.
Right.
Like, go through and continually tell yourself that, because it works in the negative, and for some reason we only apply it there, that the more you hear something, the more you'll believe it. The more you hear that you are royalty, the more you'll have to believe it. And the more that you continue to cancel out that you're nothing, the more that you have to believe that that's a lie.
Right.
Separate lie from truth.
Right.
And keep going down that path.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Pastor Asia.
I do what I can.
We definitely appreciate you coming in and speaking to us, speaking to our viewers, and really, really sharing some great insight. And so we thank you all for watching. We do have a reflection and some more Q&A, but at this time, we're going to go to commercial. Thank you all so much. We'll be right back. Hi. You know, in life, we're faced with many trials, situations, and we have to come up with some very important decisions. And sometimes those decisions that we made didn't turn out for our best interests. And so we often feel disappointed in ourselves for some of the decisions that we make. Oh, but my friends, beloveds, you're human. You're going to make mistakes. It's okay. Yes, you might have made one bad decision, but think of all the good things in which you have done. So right now, what I want you to do is think about 3 very good things at this moment in which you have done. Maybe you've given a gift to a friend. Maybe you spoke an encouraging word, or maybe simply smiled, gave a smile to someone who's having a rough day. See, you're a good person, regardless of your past, regardless of your traumatic events, regardless on some of the not so good decisions that you made. But you are still a good person. So don't forget, when you're having a rough time, when you made a bad decision, think of at least 3 good things that you have done. Hello. Welcome back, everybody. I mean, wow. Oh my, right. One of our beloved sisters, LaJoy, she says, wowzers. Let's see, Candace, I'm gonna have you start off first and just giving some reflection or some coping tips, or just adding anything that you would like to add from our guests that we've had today. Oh my goodness, they were
Really
phenomenal.
Yes.
Absolutely, so many just good nuggets. Something I definitely want to add from what Asia was saying, we have to be mindful that we're not comparing our level B to someone else's level Z, because that could impact our process. It could be a hindrance when we're trying to compare ourselves to where other people are on their journey. We really need to focus on self, because this is about reflection and acceptance of ourselves, but definitely keeping that in mind, because that is crucial to your progress. I really
Yes.
encourage you to do that.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things that kind of stuck out with me is that when Pastor Asia, for her, as she's focusing on herself, that's not her being selfish, because she's taking that time to work on her. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that she's just being selfish and just all to herself, and that she only cares for herself. Not at all. In her mindset, it is like, no, I need to learn who I am. I need to better understand me, so that I can grow, so that I can develop, so I can become a better me, and then so I can support others as well to do the same. Although my process, or the way that I've done it, may not be exactly the way that we would, but here are some things that might help. Here are some things that might help to maybe get you started, or that maybe later on you can use while you're discovering your own way, your own process. But as long as you make it throughout the day to the next day, that is important. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. Is there anything else additionally that you would like to ask us?
Absolutely. Something stood out to me that was mentioned earlier. So as a parent, we work on ourselves, but we also have to, be attentive and care for our children. So we have to be mindful of that. Sometimes our kids may be coming to us with maybe it's something that they're excited about, and because we're not in a good place, we kind of like shut them down, and then they start feeling a sense of rejection. So just also be very mindful of how we're interacting with our kids as you are going through your own personal process, because they're human too. They're going through stuff as well, and we have to be that example for them of, yes, we're going to experience life frustrations, they're going to be setbacks, but this is how I deal with it. You never have to say anything in some instances, because they're watching how you handle that.
That's so good. That's so good, because we are role models. We are role models for our children. And I know it is challenging, because we as the adults, we sometimes think they not paying attention, them little beloveds, or they don't know what we talking about, or they don't understand, or it's not affecting them like it's affecting me. And when quite naturally it is, it does impact them, if not even more worrisome, because they're smaller, because they're a little bit more fragile, because they're building their emotions, and they're becoming to understanding who they are, that we have to really handle them with care, like with glass in our hand, or that's filled with water, and we don't want to break it, but slowly making steps. And then, like you said, definitely being a role model, throwing out that saying, do as I say, not as I do. I just never understood. I never agreed with that statement when adults said that to me as a kid. Honestly, that confused me. Do as I say, not as I do. What? Then why are you telling me?
Exactly.
Why are you telling me that? And so in that process, I really think both guests was really phenomenal. I mean, Vernon really sharing his perspective of how his process, and what he's gone through, but him really allowing God to speak to him. And I know maybe for some of our viewers, you know, that maybe that may not be their source, you know, to God. Of course, we all work in the mental health field, so we're definitely exposed to all different kinds of backgrounds, all different kinds of religions, and different perspectives and things like that, for sure, you know. But I believe what we can take from his perspective in what he is saying is he went to God, you know, and we went to God as our number one source to help us when we were faced with rejection, you know. But with those of you that have not accepted or do not believe in God, you know, a positive source tying into what Asia, you know, was saying, you know, making sure that it is a healthy, positive source. Be mindful on what you listen to.
Yeah.
Be mindful on what you're watching. Be mindful of what you speak out of your mouth, because you are hearing that. And so if you no longer want to be in a place where you're bound, or that you're stuck, or you find yourself depressed because of rejection, or you're having a hard time with accepting yourself, don't go listen to a song that's depressing.
Mm-hmm. Please.
Or don't go watch a movie where, and we didn't really touch on this, but rejection in relationships.
Yeah.
When you first start dating and this person broke up with you, you know, and they no longer like you, and they're saying it ain't you, it's me, and deep down you take that in. We didn't really touch on that, but it's okay. The LifeWire team we'll tie that into that on Monday. And so what we're saying is, with the LifeWire team, and what we're hoping that you all really gathered from this is, one, be patient with yourself. Try to get to a place of awareness. Once you are aware of what's going on, or how you responded, or how you reacted in those places where you were rejected, you know, don't try to throw it away like, oh, something's wrong with me, I'm the problem. You develop all these negative thoughts. Like, okay, accept, okay, this is who I am. This is how I am. Let me just get some coping skills. Let me branch out into some positive resources. Mm-hmm. Let me reach out to people who are not going to judge me, to help me process this, and then be patient with myself in that process. Yeah. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be completely healed in 2 weeks from a rejection that started when you were 10 and you're 30. Yeah. It's not going to work out that way. It's going to take a while, because although that might have been the first time you encountered that rejection, there have been other rejection, I'm sure, within that 20-year period that has occurred. And so we really hope that you all enjoy this, and we're dealing with reflection, rejection, and acceptance. If you all have any questions, feel free to reach out to us via email. You know, share this, because I'm sure that if it was helpful to you, it'll be helpful to somebody else. And so we definitely want to thank our guests, Vernon Brooks and Pastor Asia Smith, for being with us today. Of course, I want to thank my LifeWire team, Micaiah, who's actually with me on set. We have Candace, who's in St. Louis, and Justine, who's in Washington. You know, definitely thank you for the team, and for the team that isn't here at this moment. I definitely appreciate you all. We want to thank all of our video and audio team, our production team, for being with us today. Thank you all so much. Thank you to our founder, Psalmist Rain, for allowing us to do this and be a part of it. And thank you to you, the viewers, those of you who are watching, those who are consistently watching us every Monday and sharing this. And so it is our prayer that you all were truly, truly blessed. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and love yourself, love others, and be well. Hi, my name is Charlize Allen, and I'm a counselor. You know, I've often heard clients share with me myths about their emotions. For example, if others don't approve my feelings, I obviously shouldn't feel the way that I do. And I nod my head and respond, well, that's interesting. Do you feel your feelings are important? They're like, yeah, well, I'm like, do you feel your feelings are valid? He was like, yeah, I know I probably should. And then I said, my dear friends, that is a myth. How you feel is valid and true because it is your feelings. So embrace yourself, accept how you feel. And even those moments when you don't, speak positive affirmations over yourself, such as, my feelings are important. My feelings are true. My feelings are real. And in those doubtful moments, turn to the Father and embrace his love that he has for you because he loves you just as you are. So embrace yourself.
Hi. We all have been blessed with gifts and talents that come directly from God. And at some point in our lives, especially in our childhood, we're asked what it is that we want to do when we grow up. For some of us, we knew right away, but for others, it took time to figure out. Discovering who God has called you to be can be a fun, exciting, and joyous experience. I know for me, it was just that. I knew exactly what I wanted to be when I grew up, but God had other plans. But that's okay, because I believe now what I'm doing is exactly what God had called me to do, and I don't think I would have it any other way. So for you, use whatever it is, the gift that God has given you for his glory and to enhance his kingdom. Discover what that thing is, and most of all, have fun doing it. That is a reward that's worth building towards.